Welcome back everybody, and let's finally finish our port scanner. As I mentioned in the previous video, we're only left to do one small thing before our port scanner is complete and ready to use. And that is to perform the banner grabbing on the open ports to discover which services and which softwares are running on those open ports, which can give us even more detail and information that we can use in our future attack. Okay, so what we need to do is let's first of all think how we can actually grab the banner from an open port. Well, logically, we need to connect to that port, we need to try to receive something from that open port, and then read that information that we received from that port. So we already performed half of that job. We connect to that port right here at this line. So all we're left to do after it is check whether that port retrieves some information or sends some information back to us once we connect. Okay, so how can we do that? Well, right after the connect function, we can try to retrieve the information. We're going to use a specific function to do that, and we will store the result of that function inside of a variable which we will name banner. So banner will be equal to the function which will be called getBanner, and that function will take as a parameter the socket object. So we're pasting our socket object inside of this function so we can use it inside of it, and then we will retrieve the actual banner if we manage to get it to the banner variable. Alright, so let's first of all code that function. We can do it right here between the scan port and check IP function, and we will call it, as we already said, getBanner. This function will take the socket object as a parameter which we already pasted inside of our scan port function. And all we need to return from this is we need to return the socket object and then .receive, which is the function that receives the data from this open port. We can also specify inside of the brackets which amount of bytes we want to receive, and usually this number is specified as 1024 bytes, as we don't really need more in order to get and print the banner. Okay, so this is the entire function, the entire getBanner function. Now we need to perform some modifications right here inside of our program. So we have the function right here, and we try right here to store the banner inside of this variable. Okay, now if we do manage to store it, we're going to print port, and then the string of the port is open. But let's change it up so it looks a little bit better. So we're going to delete all of this and print the exact same thing just with the banner attached. So we're going to print something like this. Let's add the plus sign, which means that the port is open. So open port, and then space. We will add the string of the port number that we're scanning. So plus the string of port. And then the next thing we want to do is plus, and we want to add the banner. Let's separate it with two dots, and then add or concat the string from the banner to our open port number. So we are going to leave it like this. Let me just see. Another thing that we need to add is another except statement right here. So except in case we cannot get the banner, we're only going to print open port. And we're not going to print any type of banner as we didn't really manage to retrieve it. So open port plus the string of port. And that is all we need to do right here. Now let's see whether this will work. If we open the terminal right here, enlarge the letters so we can see everything, and navigate to PyCharm projects and then port scanner. Then we try to run the port scanner and specify the same two websites as in the previous video. So testphp.oneweb.com. Let's first of all try with this one. It will scan the target, and we can see right here we do manage to retrieve some of the banners from two different open ports. So here it is, we got the banner for the open port 21, and now we know that the version of the software running on the open port 21, which is the FTP port, is ProFTPD 1.3.3e server. And what we can do with this information, we can simply just copy this, paste it inside of a Google, and see whether there is any type of exploit for this specific version of the FTP server. We can also perform the same thing for the SSH, which is on port 22. We see that the version is SSH 2.1, OpenSSH 5.3 P1 Debian Ubuntu. Then we can copy this and try to find it on Google and try to find some vulnerabilities for this version on Google. Simple as that. But let's make our actual output a little bit prettier. We don't really want it to print this B and then the apostrophe, and we also don't want it to print the /r or the \r\n, which simply just stand for the new line character. Okay, so let's see how we can get rid of that. Well, in the part where we are printing the banner, if we take a look at our output, we can see that the banner output starts with B and then apostrophe. That is because we haven't really decoded our banner. Once it actually receives the message or receives these 1024 bytes, those 1024 bytes will be encoded by default. In order for us to remove that B and the apostrophe, we can simply just type banner.decode, which is a function which will remove that, and we also want to strip the new line character. So how we can do that? Well, we can add another function to this banner, which is .strip, and right here we can specify \n. For example, let's see whether this worked. If I go right here and type same website, testphp.oneweb.com, here it is. Now we got the prettier output. If you compare this one with this one, you will notice we no longer get this B apostrophe and this \r and \n. Alright, so great. Our port scanner works. Let's also test it to see whether it works on multiple targets. So I will clear the screen, run my port scanner, specify, for example, 3 targets, which one of them will be this one, which we used in the first lectures of our port scanner. Then we can use the IP address of my router, and then we can use the same testphp.oneweb.com. It will go and scan one by one. First of all, it will start with this IP address right here. If it manages to find open ports, it will print them out. If it also manages to grab the banner, it will also print that out. It will also print the banner out as well next to the open port. Then it will proceed to the next 2 targets and perform the exact same task on both of them. Now you might notice that some targets will go slower in scanning and some targets will go faster, and that is pretty much normal. Keep in mind that this part right here, which is the socket.setTimeout, is crucial in order to get more or less accurate scan. If we simply just remove this line, then some actual targets might be scanning for hours depending on the distance and the open ports that they have and also the services that they are running. Sometimes it might take longer to connect to those ports and so on and so on. Therefore, it is always good to set a timeout so you don't have to wait an entire day for your scan to finish. But by lowering this timeout, you will also lose the accuracy of your scan. For example, let's say we have a port that takes 1 second to connect to, and you set the timeout 0.5 seconds. Well then, after 0.5 seconds, it will determine that this port is closed, even though it is not. It just takes longer to connect to. Therefore, you will lose the accuracy and you will not know that that port is open. So this part right here, which is the timeout, is completely up to you. You can change it to whichever time you want. Let's go back to our scan and we can see all 3 scans have finished. On the first target, we only found 1 open port. We didn't manage to retrieve any banner for it. On my router, we found 4 open ports and port 22 sent the banner back to us, and now we know which version of software it is running. And the target number 3, we already scanned and we got the exact same result. Okay, so our port scanner is complete. It can scan multiple targets, it retrieves the banners, and now we are ready to use it for our penetration testing. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to go really fast over this code so we can explain it once again for those of you that have some inconvenience, or if there is something that you do not understand, I will simply just go fast through that code, and then we're going to see how we can also import our port scanner into another Python program if we want to. After that video, we're going to proceed to our next project. Okay, so thank you for watching this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye!